I now call to order the Thursday, September 24th, 2020 meeting of the City of Sugar Land Planning and Zoning Commission. Item 1A, or 2, I'm sorry, call to order, 3, I'm sorry, I'm way off here. Public comment. Christy, is there anyone who's signed up to speak?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then we will move on to item 4, the minutes. 4A, consideration of an action on the minutes of the August 27th, 2020 meeting. Does anyone have any corrections to make?
Motion to approve.
Okay, I'm sorry. Who was that?
Sorry, that was Taylor. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Taylor. Do I hear a second?
Carl.
Okay, so motion to approve by Commissioner Landine and seconded by Commissioner Stevens. Go ahead and vote.
I vote aye. I'm having trouble getting the other screen.
And Jay? I saw him. I know he's there. Is Jay there?
He's there, but he's muted.
He's muted. Okay.
You just voted.
You just voted. Are we good? Or do you need Dan to officially vote on the screen?
No, we'll vote for him.
Okay, so I will move on then to item 5, subdivision plat. 5A, consideration of an action on Greatwood Lake Section 2B preliminary plat. Lauren.
Yes, next slide, please. All right, so we're coming in with you plat today. It's been a while since we've seen plat, so this is a preliminary plat for Greatwood Lake. So we're going back into the ETJ into Greatwood Lake this evening. We've got 2 plats tonight for that. So this one is about 13.7 acres, 52 lots with 3 reserves and 3 blocks. It is adjacent to the Greatwood Lake Recreation Center. So it'll be to the west of that. And then the access is going to be via Magnolia Trail Lane, which is the public road that gets into Greatwood Lake. Next slide, please. And we have the general land plan. Our section for my plat, 2B, is what's circled there in red. So really the 2 plats on the agenda tonight are gonna finish out platting for Greatwood Lake. Section 2 and section 1, as you see on there, are already platted. Thanks. Yep. No, that's okay. You can stay on that slide. And then this is the plat itself. So you can see coming off from Mossick Road to Magnolia Trail Lane, and then you'll have your access point into the subdivision there. And then the reserve that I was mentioning for the recreation center is shown there to the east. Next slide, please. So before I finish up, I just want to touch on platting since the new House bill. I know staff gave a presentation to the commission back in July, kind of talking about the effects of the House bill that was passed in the legislative session last year. And what it did, the plat shot clock bill, if you will, gave the Planning and Zoning Commissions 3 options to review plats: approve with the conditions, which would include citing the code references, or disapprove with an explanation, which would again need to cite code references. So that's the requirement for having conditions of approval or disapproval is citing the code requirements. We did put together a platting guide that was reviewed with the commission in July. You all should have a copy of that. We have a copy that really categorizes and groups a lot of the key things that have come up for plats and key requirements as found in the development code with those references. And so we as staff are here, we have that as well. And so we'll be able to, help the commission and assist with questions. And so planning staff, legal can help with motion if we need help making a motion. And we will get through it with our first plat. So next slide, please. And with that, I will end my presentation with the recommendation of approval of the proposed Greatwood Lake Section 2B preliminary plat. And we'll go to questions.
Unmute that. You're on mute.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I said Suzanne's not here, so we'll start with Andy and ask if you have any questions, Andy.
I do not, ma'am. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And we'll move to Matt. Do you have any questions, Matt?
Yes, Madam Commissioner, I have a few questions. So the development handbook requires that the legend table be accurate. And so I have a question when I look at, you can look at either the box exhibit. I guess I'll start there. If you look at the box exhibit, are you with me?
Yes. Got it.
Okay, so I think that there's been a transposition on the legend. If you look down toward the bottom, you see where the A with the box around it is, and that's defined at the 3/4 inch iron rod. I don't think that's right, is it? Because A should be designation for reserve per the other items on the chart, right? And the dot should be the iron rod. That's how it is on the other exhibit.
Oh, on the other. Oh, I see. On the plat itself.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
So I think if you correct, I think that the legend needs to be corrected. And again, so we're citing a reason. I mean, I would support approval with the correction per the development application, for the development handbook that requires the legend table to be accurate. Okay. So with that having been said, I just want to make sure I understand this on the box exhibit. So with that correction, the A reserve is kind of in the middle of the page, just right under Magnolia Trail Lane. Is that right?
Yes.
And then C, I mean, even it's shown twice, but there's two different reserves really kind of on either side, again, moving down to the left. And both of those add up to the acreage of 0.37.
That's what it's showing. I mean, that would sort of make sense for a larger area than A and B, since it is a larger reserve.
Okay, and it's okay that it's split into two, right? There's part of the reserve is on, the east side of the block, and part of it is basically.
Yeah, right, because it is continuous. If you follow it around lot 1, the back, the back of 2, 3, 4, and then 14.
I got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's probably you might see some of the contour lines or something could be in there, but it is continuous.
I understand. Okay, that actually makes sense. So with that, I think that correction needs to be made on the box exhibit to make it consistent with the plat. And then on the plat, just real quick, I think.
Okay, pardon me, Commissioner. I don't mean to interrupt, but briefly, with regards to correcting that legend for the development handbook, do you know what particular section that's actually in?
Well, I'm sorry, that wasn't for me.
No, I'm looking as well. So I'm yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the reference for the development handbook. I mean, I will say that lots of reserves are supposed to be accurately called out pursuant to the code. You could cite that,
Shay, on the handbook in our checklist for plats does have kind of key, what we call like key identifier info, the vicinity map, the acreage amount, the abstract, the POV, the scale, all that stuff needs to be called out.
I just think that if we're in order to do the motion with the conditions under the new law, we do want to be as specific as possible when we are actually citing where these reasons are coming from.
Yeah, it is in the handbook. I mean, it's part of our, and it's part of the checklist that is with the plat application as well.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, so for the I just wanted to make sure, especially going forward, if anyone else has any comments, if you can please, if you are pulling it from a specific section of the code, it would be very helpful when we do go to make the motion. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then I think quickly, the only other question I had on the plat is, so there's a 10-foot water line easement that runs parallel to Magnolia Trail Lane. And you can see it running in from the right of the map into the area that's being platted. And then it looks like it's just subsumed by the boundary line. But when I look over to the left, does that terminate on the western boundary line, or does that keep going, the easement? The water line easement.
Into the school, into Lamar's property.
Does it terminate there? Does it terminate there at the edge of this plat?
I would have to check that unless Myra knows from Jones Carter. She's on.
I'm sure my name is Myra Hernandez at Johnson Corner, and yes, it does terminate there at the boundary.
Your audio is bad.
Yeah, I couldn't hear that.
Can you hear me now?
It sounds like she went to the dark side. I'm not sure why.
Can you hear me now?
Oh no.
We can hear you, but it's just really distorted.
Distorted, yeah.
Okay, let me put the headphones in if that works.
Oh.
Hello. Can you hear me now? Yes?
Yes.
Sorry, it must have been my headphones. So yes, for the record, Myra Hernandez at Jones Carter. The easement does terminate there at the plat boundary.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I had, Madam Commissioner.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I will move on to Dan.
Ma'am, no, I don't have any comments.
Okay, going to the other side. AP, do you have any questions?
No, Madam Chair, I do not. Thank you.
You're welcome, Taylor.
All good here. Thanks.
Okay, Jay.
Jay, come off mute.
Jay, do you have any questions?
Yes, you hear me now?
Okay. Yes, that's better. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to continue with what Commissioner Gallagher said about the legend. For the middle of the legend, FM, and I know it's not relevant to this site because there is no FM road, but I've always thought FM was, and according to TxDOT, FM is farm to market, not farm to road. I've never heard that before. So that is on both the box exhibit and the preliminary plat page 1. So maybe if those can be addressed, and those are per the development plat or the development handbook. But that's all the items other than what was previously mentioned that I saw. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Carl?
Yes, ma'am. In the executive summary, it talks about this general plan that was approved in 2015. Is it still valid? Have they kept it updated or what?
The general land plan, yes, it's still accurate as to that latest amendment.
Okay. The general plan for this plat, for this section, first of all, they need to add, this is section 2B, not section 2. And that rec center, that if you follow their red line around, it shows, that to me indicates that they're saying it's in section 2B. Yet you go to the plat and it's got a recording from, it's already recorded in some other section, I don't know what. It's recording on the plat. So they need to correct their general plan drawing for that, in my opinion. And well, that's the section 3. And then the general plan shows McKeek or whatever road in front of the house with a 60-foot right of way. Yet, go to the plat, there's it shows that there's 30 feet that's to be dedicated. So it's not, it's just that the section 2 plat shows 30-foot right of way in that area. And it calls it out, 30-foot right of way, volume and page, blah, blah, blah. So anyhow, I don't even know what they got. And then on the plat, and I'm sorry, I can't remember, but do we need to mark where these building line, do we mark those where they change from 25 to 20 feet as they go around? Or do we just hope everybody knows what it is?
You mean on the cul-de-sac?
Yeah. When you make the curve and all that, it changes from 25 to 20, and sometimes it changes in the middle of the lot. And so have we ever, I can't remember, it's been so long since we had a plat.
You sure?
Do we need to note that anything to note that change?
So that's in our zoning regs for R1, which even though this is ETJ, the development agreement has them following R1. It says that cul-de-sac front building setbacks will decrease. So, we know that from reviewing the plot plan of the house. And then, that's why we have them label it on the cul-de-sac here a few times on each.
The label is correct. It shows, and it calls out where, it's a 20, but like, if you look at your plat, like 39 in block 1, there's, in the middle of the block, it changes to 25.
Right.
There's nothing that tells them that. I mean, it just, and so, I don't know.
So the way the house, that's kind of why the box exhibit helps. It's not, not a house pad, but it does show, the home on kind of the tangent line, if you will. So it does have to, it would be 20, it would have to be, on 39, for example.
I guess maybe I'm getting ahead of the game. Maybe it's caught, if it's caught, well, there's no building permit here. You don't, city doesn't issue a building. Anyhow, it's just a comment. I'm not gonna,
Carl, I think that gets further defined on the final plat when there's more dimensions and.
Well, it won't get defined if they don't. All I'm saying, Jay, is that the 20-foot building line is not going to move on the final plat, nor is it 25.
No, but I hopefully it's better defined where it starts and where it ceases.
But if it just continues going around with a line, it won't. You'll never know. I'm sorry.
Would adding an additional label where the line changes help?
Well, that's my question or my comment was. Have we had that somewhere in the past? I don't recall. I'm just, but I noticed on this.
It's not a hard and fast where we have asked applicants to actually label the transition point there. Like I said, it's part of how we would review, the permits.
Well, but you're not reviewing the permits in here. There are no building permits in the ETJ, correct? From the city.
Right. But
I don't think we've ever required it on a preliminary.
Okay.
Maybe on a final, like Jay said, it may we get, but I don't think it's been a requirement in the past.
Just setting it up. You understand what I'm saying about the section 2 plat and the rec center site and all that stuff? It's not, the general plan doesn't reflect the same as the plat does.
Right, but a general plan can be further, I'm not going to use subdivided, but sectioned out as 2A, 2B, 2C. That's.
Well, but I think if you're going to plat it as section 2B and you got a section 2, your general plan should reflect that.
We leave it as just general like that, and it gives the developer the option to split it up if he wants to, the way they want to plat it. So as long as the number of lots are being maintained and that's being met, which it is, that's what we go by on general land plans.
All right. I think that's all I got on this plat. Well, I do have, I'm sorry, on the legends, you need to add whatever that other railroad that's in the vicinity map. You put the SP railroad, but there's a GC and SF railroad on that legend on the vicinity map that you don't have a legend for. And the legend doesn't have any. I didn't find a storm sewer easement. Not that there's one in here, but doesn't that? Aren't these standard legends?
Not if it's not shown on the plat. So
it is shown on section 1. That's why we called it out.
We're not doing section 1.
Well, it's part of the adjacent line work. We're required to show within 200 feet line work, so we provided it.
You provided what? What did? I'm sorry, Myra. I'm not understanding what you're saying.
I was trying to answer. I was trying to answer your question about why storm sewer is on the legend.
It's not on the legend. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, you're saying it's not. Okay, I miss it. The SSE. You don't say that.
Right, that's sanitary, but storm is. Yeah.
That's right. I'll add it.
Huh?
I will add it to the legend.
Okay. And the railroad?
I will add that as well.
Okay. I think that's all good enough for me.
Okay. So would someone like to make a motion? Or I would make a motion actually. That let's see, that we approve, let me see here, hang on a minute. That we approve Great Wood Lake section 2B preliminary plat with the following conditions: that we add GC and SF railroad and storm sewer easement to the abbreviation table, and that we correct the abbreviation table, let me see, to show, I think it's the A where for the reserves and the dot, correct those two, for reserve and for the 3/4 inch iron rod, and that we correct the FM as being farm to market in accordance with the development handbook.
Okay, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I do have some additional language. I have some citations to the actual development code. This would be done pursuant to sections 5-10A2 and section 5-17 of the development code.
So in accordance with 5-10A2 and section 17, you said?
5-17.
Okay.
And those are correct.
5-17. Okay. So yes, and actually we don't have any of that. So I mean, if we need to cite that specifically, if maybe we can get those for the next meeting, because we don't have that information readily available. But I will amend my motion to include those specifications. And would somebody second?
I second that motion.
Okay, that was you, Jay?
Yes.
Okay, so I've made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Canine. If there are no further questions, we can vote. Does anyone have any questions? Speak up. Discussion, okay. If not, go ahead and vote, please.
Again, I vote aye.
I believe that'll work, Dan. Okay, and just before we move on, I just want to make one other comment that if you do have some things that you see that on these plats or on the different items on the agenda, if you can let the planning office or Shay know ahead of time too, so we can be sure to try to get these called out correctly ahead of time. So Shay's not having to look them up on the fly, or the planning office, until we, at least until we get it all down. Okay, so moving on then to item 5B, consideration of an action on Great Wood Lake, Section 3 preliminary plat. Laura.
Evening. So this section is right across the road from Magnolia Trail from Section 2B that you just approved. It does include a small cul-de-sac with 14 lots, 7 reserves, and 1 block. This is directly off of Magnolia Trail Lane. There's also some dedication of part of the right-of-way for Machek Boulevard, or Machek Road, excuse me. Next slide. So again, you can see the general land plan, and circled is the area. So this does include 14 residential lots, as well as some drainage, open space, landscape reserves, as well as a reserve for a lift station. Next slide. So this is the preliminary plat showing the boundary. At the bottom are the 14 residential lots. And then along the right-hand side, you'll see 30 feet of the right-of-way dedication for Machek Road. And then in that drainage open space area, there are the 5 mud director lots that are required per state law. So you'll see those reserves. They're the separate reserves. So that's why there's 7 of them in this small area. Next slide. Again, the platting does require specific citations, just as you found out with the first plat you've seen tonight. So just let us know what specific edits you want to see, and we can help try and come up with those code references for you.
Start at the other end with AP and ask if you have any questions, AP.
I don't at this moment. Thank you.
Okay, Taylor.
I do not.
Okay, Jay.
Yes, ma'am. Likewise with the previous plat, the
FM, yeah,
in the legend should read farm to market. In accordance with the development handbook. And I believe we're not in compliance with the property designation of 200 feet to the north of this tract. Nothing but easements shown to the north of Rabs, of the property line on the north end, at Rabs Bayou.
Okay.
There's no property shown on the other side, no subdivision plats. So I think I think that needs to be added in accordance with our development handbook. The director's lots were a little confusing. You had reserves and then you had lot numbers. But I figured it out, so that's all I had to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jay. I will go to Dan.
Yeah, so I'm just curious as to why the owner director lots are numeric in the field of the plat. They're alpha. The C through G. Is that because they all qualify as reserves?
Yes, they're all reserves, landscape open reserves. Mm-hmm.
Okay, would there be any benefit in adding, say, beside lot number 1, C, reserve C or something like this?
I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Well, down in the bottom it says owner and director lot number 1, but if you look in the field, there's no number 1.
Okay, so that lot director number 1, I believe it corresponds to the reserve table in the top left corner. If I'm not.
So, Myra Hernandez of Johnson Carter again. So the reason why we labeled them with reserve letters is because once the director lots are no longer needed, they're going to remain as landscape open space. And so if we designate them as lot numbers, then they'll stay there as lots, and that's not the intent. So we are following the same format that was done before in a previous plat in the city of Sugar Land's ETJ. The commission was comfortable doing it that way a few years ago, so that's what we're showing you tonight.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Madam Chair, this is Doug. Just real quick. I believe Myra was talking about, we did one in Riverstone, and there was a request to document the director's lots as much as possible. And that's exactly what was done. So we want to try to stay as consistent as possible, which is what they've done on this.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Doug, for their explanation. Matt, did you have any questions?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. Andy.
No, ma'am, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Carl.
On the issue of the director lots number 1, 2, 3, 4, it might be beneficial if they moved either that reserve table that talks about director lot 1 and all of that closer down here, or move the director lots down here up there in that corner so that you can, it's real clear as to what is what. Somebody didn't get, understand that there is a table up there that spells out, but they're not close enough. So somebody, that's just a suggestion. The information is here if you follow it, I guess. Okay. Don't forget that those directors will have to sign the plat on this final, just for friends, unless you get rid of them before then.
Correct. We are aware.
Just on the only other comments on down here in the western boundary, that slim reserve piece, I would suggest you add another block A there. It's in case somebody down there doesn't realize they've got a reserve behind them. You got it on the other side of the lots on that. And on this 30 feet that of Maca Road or whatever that you're saying hereby dedicated to the public for right-of-way purposes.
Correct.
Shouldn't you say that that's also dedicated to Fort Bend County somewhere here that it references? I mean, we talked about that's who it's getting.
So dedicated to the public is the appropriate language. That's the kind of standard language that we use for dedicatory language. It's dedicated to the public because it's in the ETJ that is Fort Bend County right now.
Well, I don't think it's going to change.
Well, if we annex this property, it would change.
No, it'd still be in Fort Bend County. It's not going to move from Fort Bend County.
Right, but the jurisdiction.
Your annexation would take care of that you just talked about. But right now, that's who's getting the dedicate, who's going to maintain the road or what, accept the road if it's ever accepted for anything. Just what do I know? If you're going to have you got a building line shown on Reserve B off of this roadway.
Correct.
But up here on that piece of Reserve A that stubs out to that roadway, you don't have a building line.
Because one is for the lift station, or Reserve B is for the lift station, Reserve A is just landscape open space. So there will not be a building allowed on Reserve A.
All right. Add the railroad on your legends for this one also. One quick question. Just 1 second. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Carl.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Shay.
One more question, if I may.
Yes.
Reserve A is landscape, open space, and drainage. The director's lots, reserves C, D, E, and F and G are landscape and open space, no drainage. Would it not be prudent to have that as drainage as well across those tracks?
The reason why Reserve A has drainage in it is because a portion of it is within that drainage easement that Fort Bend County Drainage District owns and maintains. So that's the reason why Reserve A includes drainage, but there's no drainage in Reserve C, D, E, F, or G.
You don't consider a sheet flow as drainage. It's in the drainage easement then for A.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Okay, would someone
Go ahead.
like to make a motion?
It doesn't make sense if Reserve A is drainage, I mean, you're just surrounding those reserves with a drainage also. The director lots. I mean, I don't know why you don't just go ahead and add drainage to it, because they're never gonna, when the district gets absolved or whatever, they'll go away, but the reserves will still be there. So it would look funny someday if it's not, I mean,
Well,
somebody.
it's because none of those reserves cross the easement. Only Reserve A is in the drainage easement. That's why drainage was added.
Okay. Got drainage
Okay.
all around it then.
Would someone like to make a motion? Or I will make a motion. I'm going to make a motion that we approve Greatwood Lake Section 3 preliminary plat with the following conditions: that we add GC and SF Railroad and storm sewer easement to the abbreviation table, and that we correct FM on the abbreviation table, and that we add the property north of Rob's Bayou on the plat. And that would be in accordance with the development handbook, and I think it's 5-10A2 and 5-17. I'm not sure.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Okay, perfect.
I second that.
Okay, so I've made a motion, seconded by Commissioner Canine. If there's no discussion, I can't see everybody, so if you have another question or if there's discussion, speak up. Otherwise, we can go ahead and vote.
Miss Matt, quick question. Did we also say that the railroad need to be shown?
Right, railroad, GC and SF Railroad, right? Is that correct? Did I miss one?
No, it's GC and SF Railroad are shown in the vicinity map, but the label is not included in the chart.
Right, that's right, on the abbreviation table. That's what the motion was, right?
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh. Do you want me to repeat the entire motion? Would that help? Okay. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and vote then.
I vote aye.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Thank you guys for muddling through. I know it's going to be a little awkward at first, and hopefully we'll, like I say, if you have a chance to review your packets early enough, if you would please let the development staff or the planning staff and/or Shay know, so that we can get, if there's an issue, the specific language that we need to use if we're going to use it when we make a motion, so that we can be in compliance. We will move on now to item 6, fact findings and recommendation. 6A, consideration of an action on a recommendation for the proposed plan development PD final development plan for Imperial Highway 6 District Tract 1 to the mayor and members of city council. Laura.
Hello. So this is the third time this has come before you now. We're up for consideration and action. This is the Tract I small commercial area that's in the Imperial Highway 6 district. This is at the intersection of Crown Garden and Highway 6. Next slide. Next slide. Right. Okay. So an overview again, just under 2 acres at Highway 6 and Crown Garden. The retail center is approximately 9,800 square feet. It includes quite a large 65-foot build line setback from the residential property lines. That includes a 25-foot landscape reserve and an already built 10-foot masonry screening wall. The access is limited to Crown Garden. There will be no access from Highway 6. And this rezoning does eliminate gas sales as proposed in the FDP. Next slide. So a recap, y'all held a workshop back in May 28th, and all edits that were requested at the time were made, as well as some information gathering that was shared with you at the public hearing meeting that happened last month on the 27th. The public hearing had no speakers present, and we still have not had any inquiries since the time of that public hearing. The small edits that were requested, such as adding the label to the unpaved Highway 6 right-of-way, making sure that all names and labels are consistent throughout the FDP language as well as the exhibits, and adding material labels to the dumpster enclosure on the perspectives. All of those edits have been made at this time. Next slide. So this is the site layout plan. Arrows were added for each of the easements to show the extents of them, as well as the State Highway 6 right-of-way shown for that unpaved area there, where the large setback is from the pavement to the property line. Next slide. This, again, it just has the consistent labeling, including the 10-foot shared use trail and the easements called out with the additional arrows. Next slide. And the existing 10-foot trail, as well as the proposed shared use trail, all of that is now one consistent label, whereas before part of it had a walkway, whereas part of it had shared use trail. So it's all the same consistent label now. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, okay. So this is the front perspective of the building. There was a note added that the exhibit is intended for building materials and design. Parking lot striping and landscape are all conceptual ideas. So this does not have to be strictly followed for the striping and landscape peninsulas or islands. The perspective's purpose is to show building design and materials. Next slide. So the same for the rear, the additional note was added, just reinforcing that this is for design and materials. Next slide. And again, we have the note, but also the added stone enclosure with wood gate for the dumpster enclosure was called out. So we do have the materials there for that as well. Next slide. These are the photos of the site as it currently exists, with the 5-foot walkways along the existing sidewalk, as well as the 10-foot masonry wall, fairly significant and large. Next slide. The future land use map does support this plan. This area is noted as regional commercial services, so a retail center does fit in with our future land use plan. Next slide. Your points for consideration tonight are that all minor edits were completed as requested at the last meeting. The use list has been tailored to this development. It excludes gas sales and limits the size of studios and place of worship. Engineering staff has reviewed and concurred with the traffic impact analysis for this site. And the FDP does include acreage all the way to Oyster Creek, so that we can include that green belt and the 10-foot shared use trail. Next slide. The FDP is in alignment with the general land plan, general development plan, and future land use plan. The proposed use has been designated as commercial since the general land plan was approved in 2007, and effective buffering and screening were included as part of the general land plan as well as the FDP. Therefore, staff does recommend approval of the recommendation of approval to mayor and city council for the FDP. Staff will be happy to answer any questions you might have. We also have the consultants that are available for answers as well.
Okay, thank you. Let me start with Andy. Do you have any questions?
No, it does look like all of our suggestions were implemented, at least at my glance, but I'll defer to the more engineering minds to validate that. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Matt?
Yes, I had a few questions. On Exhibit A, I noted that the field notes for the 1.519 acres, the date of that is December 14, 2016. Is that still current and up to date and accurate?
Yes, because nothing has changed since then, for my recollection. And there, unless legal would have I believe it should be fine. Nothing has changed.
Okay, and I just note the other one was more recent, April 2020. I just wanted to check on the older one. Okay, and then a couple other real quick on Exhibit B, the final development plan, under Section C, land uses. So both 2 and 3 say drive-through lanes are prohibited for all permitted uses. Aren't they just prohibited? I mean, if it's not a permitted use, you can't do it anyway, right?
Right.
Is this the standard language?
Yes, that is the standard language in all FDPs.
Okay. And I may have missed this, I probably did, but I saw that there was a call out for bicycle parking. Is it in the plan itself? And I don't recall seeing that on any drawing. So is that up to the discretion of however they do the parking and do the island? Okay.
It is to be determined at the time of site plan. That language was added in.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Dan?
Yeah, this engineer is of the opinion that they picked up all of the comments from last time as well. Looks good. No comments.
Thank you, Dan. Jay?
No, ma'am. No questions. No comments. Thank you.
Taylor?
Looks good. Thank you.
AP?
No comments on mine, Madam Chair.
Okay, Carl?
I only got probably one. On their landscape exhibit B4, all they got is green paint, so we don't have any idea what we're gonna get. But anyhow, exhibit B7, B8, and B9's got more detail on landscaping than B4 does. But additionally on B4, I have a question. My question is, in their way they do this is, does the description of the number of trees or number of trees shown on exhibit count as the number of trees to be planted? And the reason I ask that, because if you look at the adjacent to Crown Garden Trail, it says in the required buffer shade tree, and if you, somewhere around here, I may be on the wrong one now that I look at it, but it says 10 trees, and where I counted from was from the sidewalk back, that's 9. And you go all the way around, and the others agree. But my question is what's on, is the trees that are on the drawing, or the number in the legend?
So the trees do match up. There are 10 trees across the front. The tree on the corner does count as part of the front tree.
Across the front of what?
Yeah, so across the front where Crown Garden Trail is, there's 10 trees all in a line. Those 10 trees count. The number of trees.
That great, but if you go back to all of them, you're going to end up a tree short on the exhibit, because I did that. I went the other way. I didn't, and like the 9. If you go all the way to and include that last tree going to the existing trail, I'm just asking, what is?
It's the numbers. The number is what is required.
The
number is what is required. That's written in the text. The number is what's required.
All right. I'm telling you, if you go around there and count, you're 1 tree short in the whole deal on their exhibit. That's all I'm saying. Just that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I don't think we had any corrections. That makes it relatively easy. I motion that we submit to City Council our approval of the.
Let me just stop you really quickly, Andy. It would be a recommendation for approval, right?
Thank you. A recommendation for approval for the final development plan for Imperial Highway 6 Development Track 1 to the mayor and members of City Council.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Just a point of clarification. It is tract I rather than tract 1.
Sorry.
It's fine. Just wanted to clarify for the record.
So then to track I.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
This is Matt, I'll second.
Okay. Thank you so much. So we have Commissioner Oshold made a motion, seconded by Commissioner Gallagher. If there's discussion, speak up. If not, we will go ahead and vote. Dan? Oh, Dan's vote showed up. Awesome. Okay. So we will move on then to item 7, reports. 7A, Planning and Zoning Commission report, liaison report for the meetings held on the 8th and the 15th of September. Who would that be? I'm guessing maybe Suzanne. So we will move on then. We will defer on that and move on to item B, the city staff report.
Okay, just real quick, this is Doug. Don't have too much for you. We are still looking at the agenda for the next meeting, which will be October 13th. So right now we don't have a specific item and we're looking at some deadlines for whether folks submit. So we'll get back with you on that. We think the second meeting in October will likely potentially be some orientation depending on new membership at that point in time, but that's a little further out. That's all we have, and we appreciate y'all's work this evening.
Okay, thank you so much, Doug. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, I think that was Dan. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
We're now adjourned. Thank you all and have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Aye.
Thank you. Night.
Good night.